In early November, Flesh and Blood was featured on its largest stage yet, both literally and figuratively, at Worlds in San Jose. Combined with the Dynasty release, this momentum will carry for a while, and the good publicity is certain to bring more new and curious players into our communities. As we head into a much-needed competitive break, combined with the slowdown of the holiday season, it's a fantastic time for new players to hop into the game. And with that comes the familiar question, what's a good hero for me to start out with? So whether you're a new player looking to jump into Fab, or a veteran looking to help guide new players into your community, today I want to go over my top 5 heroes to start and grow with as we head into 2023. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, Flesh and Blood folks, and welcome to the Dice Commando YouTube channel and Go Again, a fabulous video cast discussing all things Flesh and Blood. I'm Andrew with you here as always, and today I'm discussing my top picks for new players to start out with and to grow with as they get into Flesh and Blood. As we go through today's video, please let me know in the comments what you think not only about these choices, but your takes and maybe any advice to new players looking at Fab. So let us know. And don't forget those likes and those subs. Engagement helps the algorithms and really helps others to find videos like this and to grow our great game. Now, based on the thumbnail alone, it's easy to assume this video is targeted towards new players. And while that's of course accurate to a certain degree, I believe this conversation also has value to established players and to community leaders who are focused on growing and expanding Flesh and Blood. So this video series is something we've done a couple of times now, and if you're curious, I welcome you to go back to the other videos for context. Now, as you can imagine, since our last video, many things have changed. New expansions, new heroes, and several heroes that used to be on this list have since reached living legend status, meaning they are no longer legal in all formats. So it's a great time to update this list for Fab heading into the new year. Now before we get started, not only do we have the Dynasty release upon us, but we also have the holidays coming up. For all of your gaming needs, please consider checking out my LGS Gangai games. You can use code Commando10 at checkout for 10% off your purchase, not just a Flesh and Blood, but anything on their storefront. Now I see no kickbacks from that, but it's just going to support a great LGS who really truly cares about its community. Furthermore, for singles, you're going to need to round out your decks or fill out your Dynasty collections. Travis over at Fab Foundry is a great and reliable source of fresh from pack singles. He's a good guy and an LGS owner as well, so please consider checking him out. When you do, please use the referral link below, and I get a small kickback from any purchases you make, which helps to fuel my own cardboard addiction. So today, as we get into this, I just want to really quick run through the thought process, or the selection criteria, if you will, for the top 5 heroes that I'm recommending. First and foremost is the attractiveness and playability of the hero itself. We want new players to come in and engage with someone, a hero, who looks cool and who appeals to them. The cool factor there matters. But on the flip side, if a chosen hero is one of those that faces a lot of challenges in winning, even casually, that's going to have a long-term impact on that player. Any normal person will struggle with motivation if they keep losing over and over and over. It's perfectly natural. If you or someone in your community has their heart set on a particular hero, that's fantastic, but just be sure that the challenges around that hero are understood going in. But that doesn't mean just go meta either. As we know, the meta evolves and changes over time. But in this game, which is highly skill-based, the stronger heroes tend to be more tricky to play into sequence, and also tend to lean more towards control-y type archetypes, which can be much harder to learn. Furthermore, meta heroes by and large earn more living legend points, which means they are more likely to retire in a format. Now, an obvious consideration here is the hero being relatively easy as a starting point. Straightforward mechanics both teach and develop fundamentals of the game. How and when to block, when to take a hit so you can come back harder, how to sit and set up your combo for a finishing blow. But we also want and need growth opportunities, in other words, upside potential. This allows our players to evolve over time and potentially stick with their hero, trying different pathways, deck builds, and so on, and not feel like they have to be limited to simply stab, stab, kick. This lets them change playstyle without having to jump over to a new hero. And to that end, the finances part of this is relevant. I do consider both collectability and price in making this list. Sure, every hero can get expensive once you start filling out their equipment suite, for sure. But we want these heroes to be relatively affordable, at least on entry, in formats beyond Commoner as well. Having legitimate budget options available for the legendary equipment pieces is an obvious must, but also the cost of crucial M's. Do they need Art of War, CNC, or can they get the job done, albeit a little less efficiently? Lastly, as mentioned, we do consider the playability in all formats. Commoner and Blitz will likely be the entry point for many players to start, but CC viability is also considered. Being consistent and playable in all of the formats is a must to make this list. Again, it supports player growth. Since the last iteration of this list, 2 heroes have dropped off, and the reason is entirely driven by Living Legend concerns. Again, the playability in all formats matters to me for future growth. Prism has LL'd in CC. She is of course still legal in Commoner and Blitz, but without being legal in Fab's premier format, I felt it appropriate to remove her. Briar has also been removed from this list for a similar reason. While she hasn't technically LL'd yet, she's close. Very close. And by early next spring, there's an excellent chance she will have ascended. Last thing, and I cannot stress this enough, is that the rule of cool reigns supreme. Flesh and Blood, above all else, is a game, and we play games to have fun. If you want to play a certain hero, if it speaks to you, then do it. This list is nothing more than a recommendation. Don't let some talking head sway you from what will bring you joy. As we kick off the list, I actually want to start with an honorable mention. That's right, yes, I cheated and snuck in an extra hero, but with, I think, good reason. So Arcane was just released in the Dynasty expansion set and brings the brand new Assassin class to Flesh and Blood. Arcane has a lot of positives in terms of being great for new to Fab players, as I detailed in a recent video. First, the concept of Assassin is just flat out cool. From a practical standpoint, a new player can focus the majority of their buying power into just one single set, being Dynasty. Furthermore, Assassin looks to be pretty darn good and at least appears to have a pretty straightforward line of play. The downside, though, if you really want to call it that, more of a risk, I guess, is that at the time of this video, we just don't know yet how good Assassin will be, and we don't know how much growth there will be going forward. It could honestly be a while before Assassin gets more support. So ultimately, while I think it is worth heavy consideration, I can't just yet put Arcane in that top 5. Coming in at our number 5 slot is Lexi, the Elemental Ranger. Lexi is a really cool looking hero, very flavorful and attractive to new players, and she has a lot of options in terms of her playstyle. Even from the start, players can hone in on the Lightning Go Wide build, or they can focus on the more defensive Control-y Ice build. As they build their collection, they can refine their hybrid or mixed lists, or try some of the other options floating around as well. She's also relatively straightforward and affordable in terms of collectability. From an entry-level standpoint, a vast majority of Lexi's tech is available in Tales of Aria, which as of right now, in general, is extremely affordable. Her Majestic bow, Voltaire, is only a few bucks. Outside of a few staples like Andal's Arrow, which again of itself is only a few dollars, many of her basic strategies are buildable out of that set alone. With all that Lexi has to offer, there are 2 things that keep her higher on this list as compared to her counterparts. The first and most obvious is the lack of a weapon that can deal repeated damage on its own. From a new player standpoint, I believe this could present a slightly higher learning curve as they learn the initial parts of the game. Players will have to learn very quickly how to manage both arrow loading and their arsenal slot, but I'm confident that after a few games, it'll be second nature. The second hiccup, if you will, is around New Horizon. While you don't necessarily need New Horizon out of the gate, any step up in play with Lexi will absolutely require it. Historically, this card has always been in around the $100 plus range, due primarily to its necessity. That can be a big pill to swallow for a new player. But despite those drawbacks, due to Lexi's versatility and flexibility, her ability to hold her own in all game formats, and her relatively affordable entry point, I think she's a solid choice for a new player to consider. Coming in at our number 4 slot is Fi, the Draconic Ninja, because, hey, let's be honest, the little kid in all of us loves the idea of a fire ninja. Fi is quite competitive in all formats, and despite being an inherently aggro hero, Fi is surprisingly flexible and has numerous build options and strategy paths. He has the full Draconic line using Searing Emberblade, the Kodachi Fi line with Rupture cards, or even combo type lists. With only slight changes, only a handful of cards, a player can change Fi's playstyle quite significantly. That leaves a ton of room for exploration and growth, and at a minimal price point. Fi is relatively cheap to put together at the entry level. Mask of the Pouncing Lynx is viable in CC, although it is banned in Blitz, and Shuko is a very affordable legendary arm piece if one wants to upgrade early. Even so, he has 2 common arm piece options to choose from. Lots of affordable options for him. One point of caution to Fi from a new player standpoint is his tendency to not want to block and just race. This may appeal to a lot of new players as an aggro mindset, but this is potentially, depending on the player, a risk to them in terms of developing their Fab fundamentals. and that's why I have Fab higher on this list. Blocking, as we know, is an essential skill in Fab, and starting off with a hero that largely ignores that could be, potentially, a speed bump on the growth path of a new player. If Aria is the classic learning point for Flesh and Blood, which she is, then Katsu serves as the next logical transition for many players into the larger world of Fab. But that alone isn't why Katsu comes in at number 3 on our list. Katsu, of course, has his Kodachis, which are phenomenal weapons that enable the Fab 101 stab stab kick, or punch, line of play. This is an extremely affordable and effective line of play. With a 2-card hand, you can present 3 attacks, 2 small and 1 big. This allows for good blocking and constant inevitability type pressure on the opponent. Ninja Turtle Katsu is a long-valued line of play in which players essentially tank up, taking advantage of efficient cards like Flick Flack and the Red D reacts, while whittling down their opponent. As players grow with Katsu, they can start exploring various combo lines, perhaps going a little more aggro. Maybe it's the classic Lord of Wind line, or the newer 100 Winds of Eternity line. And with Dynasty's release, it will be very interesting to see what can be done with the new Crouching Tiger line. There's no shortage of build options with our ninjas. Mask of the Pouncing Lynx provides a budget option for headpiece, but players will eventually want to get a Mask of Momentum, which, yes, will run them around $100 or so. This is perhaps the largest gate to the next step of all ninjas, despite the fact that the rest of their stuff is dirt cheap. This is why he is at the number 3 slot. Katsu is very straightforward out of the gate. He's very efficient, he's very consistent, he's relatively cheap, has a ton of upside and a ton of growth, and he is a fantastic starting hero. In the last iteration of this video, I was forced to remove Dash from this list due to her uncertain future in terms of card availability. Arcane Rising had just recently been discontinued, and without knowing if there was a pipeline for her cards, the looming potential of steady price increases or limited availability was a legitimate concern. But with Fab 2.0 and the History Pack product, those concerns have been addressed, and I couldn't be happier to bring Dash back to this list, coming into the top 5 strong at our number 2 slot. Honestly, I can't say enough good things about Dash as an entry hero or as an experienced hero. Dash's largest advantage is her flexibility. In CC, she can change from the go-go aggro boost style to the control-focused approach using her pistol and building board state with items, and she can do this via the sideboarding of only a handful of cards. Swap out your items for your D-reacts, and largely, you're all set. This makes Dash a great choice into a wide field of heroes in CC. Even at the top levels of play, Dash frequently pops her head into top 8s. In the Blitz and Commoner formats, Dash typically has to focus in on the boosty boost type build, but these builds are also very strong and very straightforward. Dash is also very, very cheap. Few of her cards are greater than a few dollars, and her legendary chess piece, the Teklo Heart, is easily swapped out for the common Best of the First Fist. The upside on growth for a new player on Dash is very, very high. Dash is a hero that you could pick up on day one and be perfectly happy with playing as your forever hero. She's that fun, that good, and that deep, and a fantastic choice for a new player. Once again, and likely as a surprise to no one, Bravo, the OG Guardian, takes down the number 1 spot on this list. I have yet to see any other hero come close to dethroning Bravo as the most balanced entry hero when it comes to learning the fundamentals of Fab, combined with his ability for upside growth that one could ride all the way to the top tables. Bravo defends well. He has access to arguably the best all-around weapon in the game, and can close out games with his dominate ability. He likes to run a lot of blue pitch cards, which positions him well against wizards, and the on-hit effects of his crush cards position him well to handle aggro. Bravo offers a couple of distinct play lines with which players can start and grow. The Anathos Hammer Pummel line is a great starting point and hits very hard, no pun intended, in Commoner. Players can also pivot to a more aggressive Crush Forward build, utilizing the hard-hitting attacks that force blocks. And at later levels of play, the intricacies of small includes or swaps can modify his exact playstyle. The majority of Bravo's Majestic cards are only a few dollars, and even his Fridge, the community slang for his armor and equipment suite, are pretty affordable as far as legendary equipment goes. Crater Fist is around $20, and Plating runs in the 40s. Run his Common Helm and you're putting together a legit competitive Bravo deck for about $100. I cannot say enough good things about Bravo. He's simple, straightforward, but versatile and complex. A perfect hero with which to learn and grow. So that does it for our list today. Hopefully this helped you in whatever stage of the game you're in, or stimulated some thought and discussion. Thanks everyone for tuning in. As always, I really appreciate the dialogue and comments. I try to answer everything that I can. I love interacting and having very constructive conversation with you guys, so let me know what you're thinking below. I appreciate all of you. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, go Commando.